Relax. It's ASMR. Hello everyone. Well, for today's video, I thought I would go over some political buttons that I have here. For Halloween, I went as an undecided voter, which means I had red, white, and blue suspenders and a red, white, and blue bow tie. And I put these political buttons from all over the political spectrum and from different times in history. I put those on my suspenders. So that was my undecided voter costume. So most of these are reproductions. You can tell the ones that have the date printed on the back. They are not the actual buttons from the campaign. They have been reprinted. But then some of them actually are real campaign buttons. So what I thought we'd do is go through, flip some of them over, and I have my iPhone here, and we're going to look up some facts about some of the different candidates. Some of them are really well known, some of them I've never heard of before. So I thought this was a nice way to just kind of do it randomly. So let's start with, that one's pretty obvious. Nixon Agnew. Nixon ran for president several different times, most famously against John F. Kennedy. Let's look up Nixon here. Here we go. Here's a Wikipedia on Richard Nixon. He was the 37th president. He was in office from January 20th, 1969 to August 9th, 1974. So he was in office when I was born. He had a vice president of Spiro Agnew on his first term, and then Gerald Ford on his second term. He was probably most famous for resigning as president, and so Gerald Ford became president. And Gerald Ford was not originally on his ticket when he ran for president, I believe, and so no one ever voted for Ford. And he is the only president that we've had that no one has ever voted for, because he came in when Richard Nixon stepped down. So I always thought that was fascinating. Let's see what else we have here. Williams Jennings Bryant. This is obviously a reproduction. Let me type it in here. Williams Jennings Bryant. We'll see what's on his Wikipedia page. He was the former Secretary of State. He was the 41st president. That's what he looked like there. Kind of a stately gentleman. See if it says he was president from 1913 to 1915. He was from Illinois. And he was a dominant force in the populist wing of the Democratic Party. So he would be kind of a Bernie Sanders, you might say. So let's see who else we have here. Oh, there's Kennedy. He was one of the people who ran against Nixon. We'll just type in JFK. I think that'll be plenty sufficient to get us what we want. There we go. He was the 35th president. He was succeeded by Lyndon B. Johnson, who was his vice president when he was assassinated. He was in office from 53 to 60. So he was in quite a while, longer than I thought. So he's buried in Arlington National Cemetery. And he served in the Navy. Has numerous military awards. And probably is the president that was in power when we came closest to actually having a nuclear war, which I think finally cooler heads prevailed and we avoided, thank goodness. This is an interesting button. It says Czechoslovakians for Ford. So let's type in Gerald Ford. And let's pull up his Wikipedia page. He was the 38th president. He came in after Nixon. And he was in power from 74 to 77. Let's see. He was the first person appointed to the vice presidency under the terms of the 25th Amendment following the resignation of Agnew. So that's how he came in to be vice president and then became president. He claims the distinction of being the first to date only person to have served as both vice president and president of the United States without being elected for either office. Interesting. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, here's a nice little... I'm going to have to turn this around so I can read it. McKinley and Hobart. This is definitely some old-timey dudes. Let's see if that'll focus on that. Come on, you know you want to. Yeah, so McKinley and Hobart. K-I-N-E-L-Y. McKinley president. William McKinley was an American politician who served as the 25th president of the United States. He looks very severe. He served from 1897 to 1901, so he was president at the turn of the century. His vice presidents were Hobart, who apparently either died or resigned, and then Theodore Roosevelt was also his vice president. He was assassinated in 1901, 6 months into his second term. Let's see, he raised protective tariffs to promote American industry, maintained the nation on the gold standard, and rejected inflationary proposals to the monetary system. Very interesting. Well, so far, all the ones we've turned over have actually been presidents. Let's see. Oh, well. And this is obviously reproduction of Honest Abe, Abraham Lincoln, who I think everybody knows a lot about. He was president during the Civil War, and he freed the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation. And he was assassinated as well. So we're having kind of a theme here. It's very interesting. From Nixon, who left office early, to Kennedy, McKinley, and Lincoln, who were terms were cut short by being assassinated. Here's another one for Ford. This one is polls for Ford. Obviously, this is a original button. I don't know that they do campaigning like this today, calling out different nationalities like Czechoslovakians or Poles. I don't even know if Poles is the correct term to use anymore. Polish, I think, is probably much more respectful. Okay, here this one says Jackson. So this is Jesse Jackson. Here we go. Let's see his Wikipedia page. He is a reverend. Let's see. He says United States Shadow Senator from District of Columbia. I'm not quite sure what that means, to be a shadow senator. He was born in Greenville, South Carolina, where I used to live. And let's see if it talks about his presidential campaign. He ran for president in 1984. He announced his presidency in 83, becoming the second African American to mount a nationwide campaign for president. He was in the Democratic Party, and he complained that he had won 21% of the popular vote, but only awarded 9% of the delegates. So, it was neat. Texas is definitely a strong leader in the African American civil rights movement. Let's see who we have here. Sanford for president. I don't know who this is. Maybe I will after I look him up. Sanford. I'm going to type in for president. Terry Sanford, it says. Okay, he was a senator from North Carolina. That's what he looked like. Right there. And he served in the military. He campaigned for the Democratic presidential nomination in, let's see, 72, it says. He was a keen challenge to the Alabama governor, George Wallace, in that election. He placed 5th place in the Democratic National Convention, behind George McGovern, Henry M. Jackson, Wallace and Shirley Chisholm. He began preparations to run for the 1976 Democratic nomination, and he juggled his obligations while he was the president of Duke University. But he withdrew for health reasons. So, that's something I didn't know. Okay, now this is interesting. We have several of this guy. Udall. He has a pretty unique name, so I think we should be able to look him up without a problem. U-D-A-L-L. Type in president. Mo Udall. Mark Udall. Let's see. We have a Mark Udall. Let's see if that is who we're talking about here. Might not be. He was Colorado House of Representatives, U.S. House of Representatives, U.S. Senate, electoral history. He was a member of the Democratic Party, member of the Udall family, a Western American political family, whose relatives include New Mexico's Tom Udall and Utah's Mike Lee. I don't think that's who we're looking for. Let's see. How about Mo Udall? Okay, this looks like who we're looking for. Mo Udall. He was chairman of the House Interior and Insular Affairs Committee. He was also in the U.S. House of Representatives. He was involved in basketball. Said he was a Lincoln-esque figure. Presidential campaign. Here we go. In 1976, he ran for the Democratic nomination for president as a liberal alternative to Jimmy Carter. Interesting. Some newspapers actually proclaimed Udall the winner because of his lead the night before, but Carter won by 1%, which was no more than 7,500 votes. Wow. So he made a serious run for the Democratic nomination. You know, I think I have several other buttons of his name on it, so. Here we have another one. Williams Jennings Bryant. Let's look this up. Williams Jennings Bryant right there. I think Google has, we've already talked about him. This is the same guy. Okay. He looks different in his photos. He looks a lot more severe there. Okay. This is Humphrey Muskie. Humphrey Muskie. Let's see what it says here. Hubert Humphrey's presidential campaign. Oh, interesting. There's the logo that it used. You can focus on it. It's like HHH put together. It's very interesting. So let's see. It says the campaign was in 1968. The slogan was, "Some people talk change, others cause it." He was from Minnesota. Decided to seek the Democratic Party nomination after Lyndon B. Johnson announced that he would not seek the party's nomination. He entered the race too late to participate in any primaries, but he relied on the favorite son candidate to help him win delegates. He selected little-known Senator Edmund Muskie of Maine as his running mate. He ran against Nixon and obviously did not win. Interesting. Okay, let's see who else we have here. There's another Udall. Very different style from that one. There's another Jackson. Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater. Let's pull him up here. See what we can. It's a very interesting looking man. Focus, focus, focus. Anyway, I hope you can see that. Definitely likes the big horn rim glasses. He was chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Let's see. He was from Arizona. He was the Republican Party's nominee for president in the 1964 elections. Despite losing the election by a landslide, Goldwater is the politician most often credited with sparking the resurgence of American conservatism in the 1960s. Well, let's see what's next. This is an interesting one here. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There's a lot going on that button. You'd have to really get close to somebody to read it. Let's see what it says here. On the outside it says, Uncle Sam's White Elephant. Its game is finished. It says goal, Rooseveltism, grand old pirate, a safety stand-patism, and that's on the back of the elephant. And then around the feet of the elephant it says protection, and hanging off of that is like a little ball that says the trusts. And then this looks like a football that the elephant is standing on, so we're really mixing some metaphors here. It says the people, rah rah rah, a safety's the score. Parker and Davis, 1904. That is absolutely crazy. But I gotta look that up. Parker and Davis. Parker and Davis, 1904. Let's see. The 1904 presidential election was Theodore Roosevelt against Alton B. Parker. Wow. You can see here that Parker pretty much won the South, and Roosevelt won everything else. Let's see. This was incumbent Theodore Roosevelt having succeeded the presidency after William McKinley was assassinated. We are all kind of connected here. Let's see. Let's click on Parker. There we go. He was a chief judge of the New York Court of Appeals. And he was best known as a conservative Democrat. He had a disorganized and ineffective campaign. I think you can tell that from the button alone. He was defeated by 336 electoral votes to 140, carrying only the traditionally Democrat Solid South, back when the American South was Democrat. Very interesting. Okay, let's see what else we have here. We have Wendell Lewis Wilkie, our next president. I don't think he was. Wendell Lewis. That's a basketball player. Let's put in Wilkie. There we go. Wendell Wilkie. That's what he looks like right there. That was what he was looking like in 1940. He was an American lawyer and corporate executive, and the 1940 Republican nominee for president. He was an interventionist, although he remained neutral prior to Pearl Harbor. He favored greater U.S. involvement in World War II. He was a longtime Democratic activist but changed his party registration in 1939. He presented himself as an acceptable choice in a deadlocked convention. Interesting. We have looks like a sunflower with a guy's face in it. I don't know who he is, so pretty ineffective campaign button. Let's see. Here's another button for Jackson. Here's another one for Ford. Let me start to get some repeats here. There's, I believe that's Roosevelt. Do some of the small ones here. I like Pat. And here's John W. Davis. Let's look him up. John W. Davis. He was ambassador to the United Kingdom under George V. He served under Presidents Woodrow Wilson and Warren G. Harding. Let's see. His father had been a delegate to the Wheeling Convention. He was part of the Republican Party, but he felt out of place. Let's see. He represented West Virginia in the House of Representatives. He was a dark horse candidate for the Democratic nomination for president in 1920 and 24. He was the first presidential candidate from any slave state since the Civil War. And as of 2016, he remains the only candidate from West Virginia. He denounced the Ku Klux Klan. And he was part of a committee that was for the repeal of prohibition. Sounds like a neat guy. Okay. Here we have Shriver. I believe Shriver, I'm going to say for president. I believe her first name, nope. Sergeant Shriver. I've never heard of this person. He was an ambassador to France. Let's see, American politician and activist. He was part of the Kennedy family. Political career, here we go. He's the brother-in-law of John F. Kennedy. Let's see. I don't see that he ran for president. Here we go. 1970s vice presidential candidate. During the 72 Democratic National Convention, George McGovern considered Shriver as a vice presidential candidate, but the campaign was unable to reach him because he was in Russia at the time. Interesting. Shriver sought unsuccessfully for the Democratic presidential nomination in 76. Okay. His candidacy was short, and he returned to private life. Wow, so that might be kind of a rare button. Here is Howard Taft. Dukakis, he ran for for the Democratic presidential candidate in 88. I remember him. It's really interesting. It says President 88 and Vice President 88 underneath each name. Here we have another Wendell Wilkes, or Wilkie. Woodrow Wilson. Bryan Stevenson. Nixon Lodge. I think that was the first time Nixon ran for president. Roosevelt and Truman. There's another Udall. There's another Udall. Adlai Stevenson. Let's look him up. A-D-L-A-I. Adlai Stevenson. We have the first, the second, and the third. He was a presidential candidate. Wow, I didn't know. There are 4 of them. Let's pick the second. Let's see. Yep, that looks like him. He was an ambassador to the United Nations, a governor of Illinois. He was, let's see, he received the Democratic nomination in 1952. He was defeated in a landslide by Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was again the Democratic presidential nominee in 56, but was defeated in an even greater landslide. Poor guy. He just couldn't win. Democrat Rodin for president. American Liberty Smith. Chas E. Hughes. I don't know who he is. And there's Rick Perry. That's a pretty recent one. Here's Democrats for Nixon, kind of trying to reach across the party lines. There's another Udall for president. Another Adlai. Who but Hoover? He was president during the Great Depression. Republicans for McCarthy. So we have Democrats for Nixon and Republicans for McCarthy. This is Nixon button, looking like it's reaching out to the Jewish community. Here's another Taft for president. And these two go together. Those are duplicates. It says Free Silver, Bryan Sewall. Let's look that up. Free Silver. Bryan Sewall. There we go. Arthur Sewall. Oh, here's what he looks like. He kind of looks lost, doesn't he? Like, how did I get here? He was a Democrat from Maine. He was William Jennings Bryan's first running mate. Okay, so that's who we want to look at. Okay, so he goes with William Jennings Bryan. So we've run across him several different times. So these are all three the same. Okay, here's another Nixon. Here's another Nixon. And I think that's it. So we have a pretty good scattering, a lot of them from the middle of the 20th century. But we also have some older ones like good old William Jennings Bryan and Lincoln and others. Taft. So I find politics fascinating, even though I've taken kind of a break from it in the last few months. I always say that politics is like my football. I enjoy the back and forth of political campaigns and following them, but I'm a little burned out on it right now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned some things. I know I did. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. And I will be making more videos for you all. Thanks, guys. Bye.